world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances, and one man in his time plays many parts.
Here, if you have a beard, random men are going to always walk up to you and try to lick your beard.
Ew, that's so disgusting. Oh.
You're one of Ben's kittens.
Hold on. Oh, so I'm like, nope.
Oh, well, you lost all your fleets.
Oh, fuck. Not what we intended. Oh, God. What do we do?
The Meta Show.
What's up, everyone, guys? It's Saturday again. Welcome back to the Meta Show. Today we have a super exciting weekend to talk about, especially with the week we had before with Parallax being released, Kickstarter stuff. I mean, a ton of things happened, especially my Nidhogger getting blown up. That was pretty exciting. Yeah. Yeah.
Excellent. You can tell Laz is doing that fake laugh. He's doing the ha ha ha. It was so funny, and he's still mad.
Yeah, I'm still a little bitter.
Yeah. Still a little bit. What was Grath's way of describing it in a completely different context? Butt rustled.
Butt rustled
is the technical term. Somebody is saying that I look hungover. That is a total lie. I do not look hungover. I just look vampiric and perhaps a lack of sleep. Not hungover. Yeah. No, I have green tea right here.
Jesus Christ! There's so much hypno kitty right now.
Yeah. God, are you getting spammed? That's awesome. Okay, well, I mean, it's awesome for the show. It's awesome for the community. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, seeing you cringe from all of the "oh yeah" is
this
pretty.
Used to be your job. I mean, you're
oh
cringing.
Yeah.
All right, so quick shout-outs, guys.
Oh yeah.
Stop! Rishi and Star Fury 9 months. Lion IX 9 months. Jim J99 9 months. Seabass SA 8 months. We scroll down. Joel Snug 9 months. Guys, all you guys, thank you so much for your support. I hate you all for spamming the button at the same time, and get some beard licks in the chat for all those nerds.
That's amazing. Yeah. Now somebody's saying that I actually look. Oh wow, there's a Malkavian joke there too. We're going old school World of Darkness. We can talk about the fact that World of Darkness was sold to Paradox Studios, because that's actually an interesting data point. We'll get all old World of Darkness about this, but no Pixel Sarge. I am not trashed as fuck. I'm a good Wisconsin boy, and I'm just looking particularly pale today.
You guys saw the show from Vegas. I mean, pair that show to this show. I mean, that's...
Yeah, that was me being like Vegas voice. I have a little bit of Vegas voice today, but it's all right. I also want to point out, because people will forget this unless I actually explicitly tell them, if you really want to make Laz suffer, you can give us money. Which is a funny way of saying making Laz suffer, because obviously we want money. Everybody wants money. There's no real reason to hide that. But you get to watch a cat in a bee costume fall off a couch, and if you include an advertisement for your Corp Alliance or anything like that, or a tongue twister, we force Laz to lead it out live on stream. And if you could get the timing right, there's sort of a hilarious 1-2 punch, because you can donate with a tongue twister, and then if somebody subs, it interrupts Laz right in the middle of him trying to say it with an "oh yeah." So if you want to troll us by throwing money at the screen, or not me, troll him.
I've had a pretty bad week so far. I mean, I lost in the stereo because my ADD kind of kicked in, and I forgot to turn my reps, and it was like Dead Space fit to stereo. So it was a 200 million disc frigate. And
why would you do that?
I was fighting 5v1 and I was winning too, but then I had to switch from warriors to hobgoblins, and then my hobgoblins didn't launch when I told them to, so I had to keep trying to launch them, and in that time I forgot to turn my reps back on, and then I blew up, and it was yeah.
You had a lot of serious Eve losses today, between the Nidhogger, not today, but this week, between the Nidhogger and your poor faction fit and your Dead Space fit frigate.
It's been a bad week.
Get your shit together, man. Get your shit together.
However, I did beat Travis Muskrat in honorable equal numbers brawl and you're blind this week.
Oh, that's excellent. So we have a few bits of news. So we've already said donations. I'm going to go ahead and talk about our wonderful sponsors. As usual, thank you so much to Blue Microphones for helping make all of these things happen. A little bit of shameless plugging for Razer. I've got these lovely Kraken headsets, as does, I don't know what Laz currently has on, but we have good stuff, and we appreciate it. And beyond that, we've got a lot of stuff to go into. So do we want to...
We also have a $10 donation from Yellow Swagtron 9000.
YOLO Swagtron.
Dreadit is recruiting. I just want to let you guys know. Dreadit is recruiting.
Well, actually, that's interesting because Dreadit is recruiting. Dreadit is always recruiting at www.dredditisrecruiting.com. I hear that Test Alliance is best alliance. There's a clip from Jeff Edwards actually saying Test Alliance best alliance from his virtual book tour, which is something we're going to be talking about a little bit later on in the show. We launched this whole Kickstarter thing this week, and it went off like a bomb in a good way and in a bad way. It was a bomb at first because the backer rewards were awful and we screwed that up. I mean, there's no reason to beat around the bush on that. But we sort of seized control of the wheel. We fixed a lot of that stuff. And then Jeff has begun doing a virtual book tour, going to meet with the community. He did a great AMA. This is, of course, since I didn't give any context, Jeff Edwards is doing the Fountain War novel project. That's the Kickstarter we're talking about, writing a sci-fi nonfiction book about the Fountain War. And he went into the Lion's Den. I mean, obviously he's fearless because he spent 23 years in the Navy and got out as a chief, and he's still working in the industry. But he did a Reddit AMA in the face of his worst critics, and then he went over to Test Alliance's leader, invited him over to their Mumble, and he just sat down with the guys and spent a couple hours talking with them. And there's a funny SoundCloud you can find on the Eve Reddit of Jeff saying Test Alliance best alliance. But
we'll also be linking the recording of the Test Alliance Q&A later in the show. But to jump into things, guys, a quick shout out Lord Dax, 8 months in a row. Make sure you get some beard licks. I can't fucking talk anymore. It's only the beginning of the show too. I'm not the hungover one. Jeez.
So you say. I'm just sort of like, I'm just giving you my hangover through the internet, and I'm perking up. And, there you go.
No. So on to Nullsec Power Hour, guys. Jump into the Nullsec changes. And to lead things off, guys, we have the Low-Sec Subcap Brawl.
Shut up and take my money.
And before we get into that, we have more money being thrown at us. Cute B. Shrar, $10. The Mittani knocked me up at E-Vegas, and I need Diskies for Desies for my baby's toonies. P.S. Karma Fleet is recruiting. That was... Shrar, I love you. That was... Mittani's my babby daddy.
Oh God, that's bad because I think if I actually have a fit of the giggles on camera, that's gonna be pretty. He bribed Hypnokid. I love the language we have about that. We're so shameless. We don't even bother trying to disguise what we're doing here, and we appreciate that you guys don't need to have us disguise it to you. Wow, I actually have a tear in my eye after all the
tear in your ear?
Not like a tear, but just like eyes watering.
All right, so Eve.
So yeah, Nullsec Power Hour. Let's do this. We got a Low-Sec Brawl. We got somebody got kicked off the CSM. There's a lot of drama there. We have the Amar Championships, and so let's start off with the Low-Sec Brawl because Laz, I want you to talk about this Low-Sec Brawl because you have such a great record of winning fights in Low-Sec.
Whoa, PL's blue. PL's blue is all I gotta say. Don't shoot. I hate you. So, guys, the Low-Sec Brawl was actually probably one of the biggest brawls we've seen in a while. I think it had like 700 people involved, which, it was Phoebe scales, massive. I mean, that's pretty ridiculous.
And what's really surprising is our guys won.
Wait, what?
Our guys won the Low-Sec Brawl.
No, that doesn't happen in Low-Sec. Sorry. You're reading the wrong kill mails.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
No. We actually did win. That was, which I'm actually willing to throw some props out here to Bastion for the blap dreads. Like Bastion's like getting a pair and dropping some blap dreads in Low-Sec, which is like pretty amazing because our history with caps in Low-Sec, as you know, Asakai, Darius. I'm sure there'll be another one here in the next couple of months.
I think that the rest of the Imperium has figured out that we can actually do pretty well in Low-Sec as long as there are not Goonstorm leaders running the caps in Low-Sec. It's just basically like Low-Sec has a no-go zone. So, I mean, it was a really interesting fight because, we're starting to see, and this is great for the health of the game, is we are beginning to see big fights again. And also today, if you take a look at the PCU, there's a lot of people logging into EVE Online today, which is great. This is a fight about 50 billion is destroyed, maybe a little bit more, and it was primarily between CO2, Circle of Two from the Imperium, and the Bastion dropping blap dreads, with some support from the rest of the Imperium. And last, why don't you take it away?
The big thing to point out here, though, is it was over a money moon. It wasn't over a new a node system, blah blah blah. It was over an old tried and true fight generator, a money moon. And I don't know how how CCP's been looking at these fights, but if you look at Nullsec lately, a lot of these massive brawls, which have all been happening in Nullsec, have all been on money moons. So I don't know if there's something that they can do to change that and to incorporate into the new system, or what. But I mean, that's going to run off in a completely different direction. But
we'll talk about conflict drivers later, because it is important, and moons have always been the biggest conflict driver in EVE.
Basically, NC Dot had a Rattlesnake fleet. Bastion, CO2 had their Macarial fleets, and then the Big Red Boat was streaming it live with, I believe, an Interceptor fleet to keep things tackled. And then Pandemic Legion showed up with Sleipnirs. So it was a large brawl, a lot of faction battleships. And if you look lately, the meta has shifted from a lot from Tech 3s. Like, there's Tech 3s are still hugely prevalent to more of a Macarial based. And if you look at some people, they're actually, in their Macarials, they fly with a Nestor, which allows you to refit, kind of like a carrier. But these Macarials, they carry artillery and autocannons. So if someone warps in with the Tech 3 fleet, they can literally swap from artillery to autocannons and just start brawling it out close range, like in mid-fight. Like it's like there's refitting like in the past, and then there's this refitting on a whole nother level now. It's ridiculous.
That is pretty nuts. Somebody's saying in chat here that the Bastion was primarily in a Serb fleet for this, which they were. So
yes,
it was CO2 and Max. Yep.
But Max currently are at the top of the meta, which is an important thing to know, just because Minotaur kind of fell a while after the Alpha Fleet nerf, with Maelstroms kind of going away, and is shifting more into battleships. So you saw the Rattlesnakes, the Macarials, and the Tech 3s. So I'm glad to see the meta shaking up a little bit, and hopefully see more to come with the capital changes. But the big thing about this fight was they dropped the Blap Dreads, Bastion did. They were able to kill the Triage Carrier, and I believe NC Dot got pretty much wiped out. Almost like they lost, I think, 2/3 of their ships. Another $10 from Shirar. They didn't even go to the Money Moon. It's a government cover-up. Okay. It's all a lie. Wow. But no. So it was, like I said, the biggest important thing about this was it's a 700-man fight, which was unheard of for a while now.
With about 60 billion ISK of damage, 50 to 60 billion ISK, and it's nice to see that these things are happening. And Nullsec is, as somebody pointed out in chat, Jamatin, that's almost French, said in chat that Nullsec is basically still stuck in the past. They just recently discovered coalitions, and they're still fighting over money moons. But what you're seeing here is actually not like Nullsec fighting. You're seeing the blocks from Nullsec fighting in near Nullsec. And I think it's just because it's a resource that everybody can test. You know, people take regions for moons in general. Like, the value of a region is based upon two things: one, TrueSec, that's always been the case, but two, and primarily moons, because that's where you get actual macro scale income. So it's good to see that the blocks are willing to tangle over stuff, and to see an old school third party kind of mess. And it's nice that we actually won it, because our record as a coalition of winning in Nullsec is not really all that great. But enough about that. Let's move on to, I want to talk about the Amar Championships next. Okay. Laz, you're actually going to be fighting.
And Max Singularity is in chat right now, actually.
Maximilian Singularity the Sixth, first of his name, the True Emperor, is in chat here with us. Everybody say hello to Max. He is the man, as always. And not only is he the man, but we have Laz and Namamai, two Gunstorm directors, who are going to be fighting on his behalf. Is anybody else, Laz, why don't you tell us about this? Is anybody else going to be fighting for Max, or is it just the two of you? How does this whole Amar Championships thing work?
Yeah, so basically the way the Amar Championships are going to work is there's 4 different houses, and they each, I believe, have four heirs, or champions rather, that are fighting for their house. And tomorrow is when everything starts off. We have 2 matches, or we have 1 match, and it's if you lose 1 match, you're out. And the weird thing about the Amar Championships is CCP is able to go and create these really, really special, unique scenarios. Like for our team, the only ships we can field tomorrow are a set of, I think, five Tech 1 frigates. 5 Tech 1 Amar frigates is the only ships we can choose from, and you can't have any duplicates, so you have to have 1 of each frigate. And it's a really, really awesome and unique tournament that I think the last one was years and years ago, when Jamil died the first time. So it's definitely something that's really, really unique, and the prizes are the silver magnates. So if you win 2 matches, every member of your team gets a silver magnate.
Nice. Do you know who you're going to be fighting against?
Yeah, we're actually fighting against Pfeiffer, which is a PLB team, is our first match. And if we can eke that one out, then we win the winner of the other match in our bracket. So is
this just 2v2 or is it 5v5?
4v4. So on our team is Max Singularity as our champion, and then myself, Namaimai, and Fiery Red, who is a writer for TMC.
Awesome. Well, good luck to you guys. Do you think you're going to win? How do you think you're going to do?
I think we're doing okay. I honestly think we can take the first one. I think as long as we cover our bases with the fleet comp that we have, which I'm not going to tell you guys on stream.
Right.
once if we can get done what we need to get done, we can definitely win it easily. The second match is going to be a toss up because it's a much more complex scenario when it comes to.
So you know what the scenarios are all the way down the line. Okay.
Yeah. So yesterday, Friday, they released what the ship types for this weekend will be. So basically, you don't know what ship types you are fighting with that weekend until Friday, and then you have to scramble to plan and fit things and theory craft and all that. So it's really, really awesome. It's fun. I spent all day yesterday trying to talk with Namaimai while he was at work.
So what time tomorrow is it going to kick off, Eve time?
13:40 is our first match.
13:40.
Yes,
wow.
it's early. It's early.
That's yikes. That's brutal. Okay. Well, good luck. That's really awesome. I'm glad that CCP is doing these kind of events. It's a little bit more nuanced than just the same old Alliance tournament stuff.
Well, and there's some RP involved, and a lot of RP are able to step up instead of just your Nullsec tournament teams. But I guess moving on, some really, really major stuff. Manny being removed from the CSM. Posted by Lilu that he was removed from CSM, no real reason given. What do you think about that?
Oh, man. Well, I mean, it's a good thing I'm not on the CSM anymore because I think I can actually speak freely about what I've heard happen. I mean, whenever anybody is removed from the CSM, usually there's not an official comment or statement about it. But there was a very open scandal about this all over the community. So everybody kind of knows what it's for, or at least thinks we all know what it's for. I mean, who knows? Maybe he was removed from the CSM for something completely different. CCP will not confirm or deny it. But when we're talking about Manny, of course, we're talking about Manfred Sidious, who is the PL representative to the CSM. And apparently the rumor is, across was the player base, that he was removed for consistently leaking. The cap changes apparently leaked out early, and there was this whole thing from Vince Draken sending a broadcast from NC Dot telling everybody to train capitals, it's going to be great, blah, blah, blah. And that blew up into a whole thing. And then finally, after, I guess a couple of weeks after all of the scandal broke out, Manny was removed. What's significant about this is a number of things. Manny was one of the original advocates behind nerfing capitals with jump fatigue and that entire system in the first place with the Phoebe patch. And so one of the primary public architects of that, or public advocates of that, being removed for misconduct raises a lot of eyebrows, which is a segue later into the fact that jump fatigue has now been crushed down to 5 days, which is good. But on top of it, what's interesting is that in the past, CSMs, once they'd been removed, this is, I think, is this the third CSM that's been removed this year?
Yes, number 3.
Number 3.
Yes.
So that's a lot, right? Like, that is actually straight up a lot. Now, I know that at least one of those was a resignation, not a removal.
Yeah, it was Core Blood Brothers resigned.
Core Blood Brothers just resigned. And what's interesting about this is that CCP this time, in the past, they've had somebody sort of next in line step up into that place. And after Manny got removed, I think it would have been Bobmon who was up next to join the CSM. And he's rather pissed off because CCP has said basically it's too late in the term and that we're not going to spin up a new person. This dovetails also into a sort of another meta level scandal. Some call it a scandal, whatever, use your own judgment. Shortly after this broke out on Twitter, there was a big thing about this because CCP Fozzy made a tweet as part of a chain of tweets basically saying that, you should not rely on the CSM to be your primary feedback channel and you should go through other normal channels in an open Twitter post from his CCP account, and that set off what could be politely described as a bit of a shitstorm in CSM watch.
A bit
of a shitstorm. So yeah, it's kind of a weird thing. CCP is spinning up these focus groups, right? They have this real conflict between people who seem to be supporting the CSM, and there's always a leaker. I've said this before. Every single CSM that I have known of, there's somebody who leaks and gets nuked. That's just what happened. On CSM 6, it was Darius III. Before that, there was the guy who, Larconis Tressler, I think, was the guy who had the thulium scandal on CSM 3. Like, there's always somebody out of a pack of players who get elected to that thing. Somebody misbehaves. It's usually not a big deal. You go, okay, you misbehaved, off you go, and then you move on. But there seems to be this multi-channel process where the CSM has some of the best people that it's had this year on this one, with people like Scion and Thoric and Indy and just all of the crew. And Sugar Kyle also is just pretty much the best. I love Sugar Kyle. She is awesome. You pretty much know in life if you are doing things well or poorly based upon whether Sugar Kyle will give you the time of day. And if she does give you the time of day, she will tell you exactly how you are screwing up. And you should pretty much just drop everything you are doing and listen to Sugar Kyle. So that's just sort of my statement on that. But it's weird because they're setting up these focus groups. And, Manny's off the CSM, but simultaneously with the focus group, they're still talking about the CSM, but then Fozzie says you should not rely on the CSM, and it's just this real weird wires crossing, mixed messages mess. So yeah, I mean, if there's any questions about the whole CSM thing or any comments that people have regarding that, go ahead and put that in chat, and we will get to that.
Well, the one question I did that jumped out was someone asked who the three were that were nuked, and one of them was forced to resign, I think, by the CSM, who I believe was Gorga from Nullsec. And then the second,
inactivity.
Right, for inactivity. And then the second one was Core Blood Brothers, who resigned. And then the third has been Manny, who has been removed by Lilo and CCP.
So, I mean, at that point, there's one inactivity and one actual misconduct. So, I mean, this CSM really has only had one bad apple, which is pretty consistent. There's one bad apple. Like, people resigning or people not showing up. That's always been there. So that doesn't really impact the credibility. Maximilian Singularity the Sixth, first of his name, the true emperor, is pointing out a horrifying fact, which is Incarna was almost half a decade ago.
Wow.
I feel old. I feel really old.
I've been playing this game since I was like 15, so
that was the year that I went to Iceland 5 times in 1 year, and the fact that was half a decade ago makes me feel particularly old. Okay, so the Manny thing is, I think we've covered that pretty well.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and as somebody else, Pixel Sarge is pointing out in chat, if somebody is from PL and wants to shed a little light on their perspective on the whole Manny thing,
Yeah.
Oh, so Laszlo says that Grath came on open comms last night and said that he hadn't heard anything about Manny leaking. This is all just back channel stuff. I mean, whenever anybody is removed for anything, there's a million rumors, suppositions. So everything that I am relaying to you guys on the show is just stuff that I've heard. It's not a formal accusation that I'm willing to bet the bank on. So
yeah. So quick shout out to Biznasty, new sub. Got some beer licks in the chat for him, guys. Make sure you support him, and thank you for supporting us. But I guess I don't see any more questions popping up, so before we jump into Jeff Edwards' segment, let's jump into some CCP please real quick, and then we'll pull Jeff in.
Awesome. Okay. So CCP please is a little bit short this time around because Parallax is the last of the big patches. I mean, the last of these small patch expansion, non-expansions thing before CCP shifts to going back to a big expansion cycle, which I think is good. So what we have this time around, Parallax, we'll just hit it pretty quickly. Node Regen, which is pretty big, and we're going to talk about that in a moment. Brain in the Box, which allows people to, I mean, Laz will be briefly touching on that. iHubs, now you can turn mods on and off, which is good. You can also self-destruct SOV structures, good. They changed the probe overlay, good. And then probably the biggest one is the jump fatigue reduction, getting down to 5 days. So Laz, why don't you briefly talk about Brain in the Box before I'll take it away on Node Regen Psych.
All right, so Brain in the Box is something they've been working on for a long time. They've been throwing around the word Brain in the Box for, 3.5, 4 years now? I mean, it's been a while. My very first fan fest was when they started talking about it. And the big thing about it is it does seem like it's made some things in the game slower. And that's kind of a bad thing. It's not really a bad thing, but it's kind of like a median. That's your neutral point right there. It made some things slower, like opening your character sheet, stuff like that. But one of the big things, if you're ever in a large fleet jumping through gates or undocking, it has made that noticeably better. So we went from having 10% tie-dye to taking a full fleet through a jump bridge or a gate or undocking to having, I think, 70% tie-dye. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, that's huge. So it means that when players are moving around in mass groups and looking for fights, we don't just get lagged trying to, like, you know, get to a fight.
Yeah, so I mean, and we haven't had any major fights in Nullsec on an actual like decent node. Like the big fight was in Lowsec, which Lowsec is infamous for having terrible nodes already assigned to it. So when we get another large brawl in Nullsec, I can't wait to see what people think of Brand of the Box in that sort of environment.
Yeah, so basically, people are commenting about that. The fatigue, somebody's saying 5 days is, Nick Firebear is saying that 5 days of fatigue is nice, but not enough. We'll have to see how all of that goes. I mean, the massive carrier movements that we used to see in Nullsec were usually a consequence of block wars and people fighting over territory. So since people aren't really fighting over territory at the moment, they're doing after conflict drivers. We'll see see how that goes, which is my subtle segue into talking about node regen. So node regen is a really major impact. I think psychologically across the entire game, we're going to see a lot of changes because of that. Node regen means that when you spawn a command node in FozzieSov or AegisSov or whatever we're calling it, when Cosmic Whack-A-Mole begins, you no longer have to clean up if an attacker doesn't turn up. So why does this matter? An attacker comes into your space and hacks some of your stuff, and you miss the hack. I mean, you whiff it, you don't kill them in time, whatever. 2 days later, command nodes spawn. And previously speaking, you would then have to run around, and even if the attacker didn't turn up, you would have to go around and manually counter hack these nodes to clean them up and make them go away. So it was just awful, because you had a situation where somebody as an attacker didn't invest at all in the attack, didn't turn up to confirm the attack, and then the defenders had to sink massive amounts of man hours into cleaning it up. Now, we have started doing something that we call, instead of Netflix and chill, we call it mumble and chill, which sounds a little bit naughty, and, you know, maybe it is. But you know, when there is a node spawn, we just get our guys together in comms, and inside of 2 hours, they're gone. So the scouts will deploy, our recon guys will go out there and keep an eyeball on the nodes to see whether the hostiles are actually going to turn up and do some work. And so far, they haven't. And that means that the rest of the fleet just to, you know, hang out, shoot the shit on comms, not for the whole 2 hours, and then, you know, you're done. So I think that's going to have a really big knock-on effect across all Nullsec, because, you know, the idea of a SOV system, like with Dominion, is that an attacker should be investing into the attack and then following through. And if they don't follow through, the defender shouldn't have to deal with it. Laz is cracking up about something or other.
No, apparently, like, HypnoKitty might be dead, so I turned it off and on.
Did we kill HypnoKitty? Well, if somebody wants to fire a shot through the subsystem or through donations,
actually, I think I can. Maybe I can.
Oh,
there, it's working again. We're good.
Okay, there you go. Awesome. Excuse me. So that's basically the entire thing with the node regen stuff. You know, a lot of the conflict in Pure Blind has been just bullshit. You know, if you see that there had been hacks and counter hacks and all this other stuff, and kind of like with the Troll Scepter nerf, I think that you're going to see a lot more of a just real SOV attacks will be real SOV attacks. It'll be less bullshit, which is good. Okay, so I think now we're probably ready to bring Jeff Edwards on, who is...
I think we're definitely ready. Let me find him on Skype.
Well, I'm going to keep running my mouth.
You keep talking. We got this.
While Jeff does... I mean, while Laz works to bring Jeff on board.
Boom.
So, awesome. So we're bringing Jeff in right now, and now he's going to fiddle with the camera to once Jeff turns up. So Jeff Edwards, of course, is also known as Navy Thriller on Twitter. Hey, Jeff, how you doing today?
What's up?
Doing good.
Awesome.
All right.
Yeah, we're going to go ahead and get you your mug up here on camera on the stream. Laz is going to work on that. So let me just go ahead and reintroduce you to everybody. We actually had you first on the Meta Show, I guess it was a month plus ago, and introduced you to the player base. Slightly different setting now. Is this your home office that you're at here?
Yeah, this is my home office.
Awesome. I see that you have a Tempest back there on the shelf behind you. That's excellent. And like a torpedo or something or other. That's pretty cool.
Yep.
Okay, so we've had a pretty wild adventure. We had a announcement at eVegas that we were going to be doing this Fountain War novel project, which there was a lot of excitement about. And then we started a Kickstarter about it. And like I mentioned at the start of the show, initially speaking, the backer rewards were a disaster, which has nothing to do with Jeff Edwards at all. That was basically marketing advice that we received that needed to be fixed. So we fixed it, and now we're off we go, pretty much. You've been doing a virtual book tour and talking about the Fountain War project. How does it feel? How have you enjoyed, what's your reaction been thus far getting up close and personal with the EVE Online player base?
I'm liking it. I mean, I'm finding out things I wouldn't have found out any other way. I'm really enjoying, talking to other EVE players. I should barely consider that I'm part of that group yet, since I'm such a noob. But I'm enjoying it. It's a blast. Even the people who come after me with torches and pitchforks have been entertaining. So,
well, I mean, if you enjoy having people come after you with torches and pitchforks, then you're playing the right game. This is definitely the one for that. So, just a couple of questions for you. One of the things about this project that is really intriguing to me is that what we're doing here is basically, it's like, well, when I say I mean the player base as a whole, who you're going to be writing about, and you as the author, this is a completely new type of fiction here. I mean, Pierce Brown described it as sci-fi nonfiction. Could you maybe speak a little bit about what does that mean to you as an author that's different from your other fiction projects?
It's a kind of an interesting melding between two completely different things. Generally, if you write about something fictional in a fictional universe, everything is kind of made up and you're just going along, kind of creating the story. This is a circumstance where the universe itself and the laws and everything else are completely fictional. Somebody made them up and built them and constructed them. But the stories in there actually happened. People actually went these places, did these things, built these stations, had these wars, conducted this espionage. So it's interesting to be playing in this pond, if you will, or in this milieu where the line between reality and fiction is so blurred. It's there's so much meta in this that it's amazing, and I love that.
And it's interesting because EVE is so meta in and of itself that even the process of getting the book project started, there's a tremendous amount of meta surrounding that. I mean, there was a massive controversy, which you handled quite well. I mean, you're doing this whole virtual book tour. One of the first things that you did, and you had an AMA on Reddit, and then you went over to talk to some of the test guys, and then earlier you were talking to the guys on Imperium Mumble.
Yep.
What was it like to go over to the guys at Test and talk to them you have no filter when you're on Mumble and just talking to people. What was that like?
First of all, the thing that struck me about talking to Test, and it happened again today when I was talking with the guys from the Imperium, is just how smart these people are. Even the ones that are kind of pissed off at you are just incredibly smart people. So while there are some basic shitheads out there who are, and I'm not talking necessarily about the virtual book tours, but I just mean in general with regards to social media and the interactions, while there are some guys out there who are going to hate everything that I'm trying to do here and everything that we're trying to do here, the vast majority of these guys are at least open to listening. They're at least open to finding out what's going on, asking genuine questions, listening to the answers, not automatically looking for a chance to disagree, but actually thinking about what I've said and then saying, okay, that makes sense, or okay, now I have a follow-up question. I like that. I like being able to have that level of dialogue. That's very cool.
So as part of that level of dialogue, guys, here, he has been doing the virtual book tour. One of the things I'd like to say is if you have a corp or an alliance that was involved in the Fountain War or is interested in the project, you can send an email to info@navythriller.com and basically invite Jeff over, and he will make a time and come over to your comms and just talk to your guys directly without any kind of handlers or anything like that. And so you can just meet Jeff, when he's available after his work. So send him an email and we'll make sure that you get a chance to introduce him to your guys. One of the questions I wanted to ask you about was, one of the things that we keep getting inquiries about. And guys, if you have questions, also this is another thing that I want to say. If you have questions while Jeff is here, just put them in chat and we will take the questions and throw them at Jeff and see what he has to say. But probably the most important question that has been consistently asked is, who is actually in charge of what goes into this book in terms of approvals, and is it all you? What's the risk of a lack of impartiality?
In terms of approval, I'm the final arbiter of what goes in the book. Obviously, CCP is the ultimate owner of the intellectual property and of the game. They have some say in what the final product is. But my discussions with them and our, well, not just mine, but the negotiations with them and the subsequent discussions leads me to understand that the only way they're going to intervene is if they think I'm going to damage the brand. So as long as I'm not doing something that is going to make CCP look bad or damage the EVE branding, I think I've pretty much got carte blanche. So with regards to who has the authority to pull the plug on me or to control what I'm writing, the answer is I do. That was part of the discussion from day one. The people who are out there who are worried that the Mittani or the goons are going to have control over this book and it's going to be a goon puff piece, that's completely nuts. I wouldn't be willing to write that book. And the good news is I was never asked to write that book. The discussion was always it was up to me to figure out how to tell those stories.
Well, one of the things that's funny about this is, watching people comment, and the concern is legitimate, and people do not want to have their history rewritten, but a lot of the thing rewritten in a hostile way by, the person who beat them in the war, or the people who beat them in the war. A lot of the credit or blame goes to me, when the reality is that it was all of our coalition working together. I actually, during that war, probably did more to put our guys at risk than anything else. I screwed up by launching the war too early. And one of the things that I've been seeing is people say that, like, the Fountain War, the war against Test was just really a foregone conclusion. The reality was that until Black Legion flipped, we went to war with the wrong doctrines. We went to war too early we had the wrong doctrines. We didn't have enough supply. The leader was an idiot and launched the war a week before he had to go to E3. So I was on my phone trying to phone in command of the war. Our Tempest Fleet issues got obliterated. Black Legion was running around through our backfield, blowing up CSAAs and just wreaking havoc. The reason why I think the Fountain War was such an engaging story is because the victory was never actually assured. If it had, at a couple of moments through the Fountain War, it could have blown back all the way up into Declan and resulted in the total destruction of Goonswarm, but it didn't. So one of the things, another question.
Let me cut you off real quick, because with HypnoKitty broken, we missed actually a couple donations. So let me throw those out there real quick. $5 from Gold Snake. It's one of these. Hold on. All right. If you must cross a course, cross a crowded cow crossing, cross the course cow, cross the crowded cow, crossing carefully. Got it!
Wow.
Nailed it!
Nice.
Booyah!
Sorry, so the other one's from Shirar. CCP found out he was the second gunman on the grassy knoll, which I think that was out of context because it was late. But then also from Shirar, $10. As sci-fi fans, most players greatly appreciate the opportunity of their story being told by an accomplished author. That's towards you, Jeff.
Excellent.
Oh, well, thanks. I also saw somebody asking if I want their 30-page erotic fiction that they wrote about the Fountain War to provide some background, and the answer is, oh, definitely. I don't think it's going to end up in the book, but if it's good stuff, I want it.
That's excellent. So one of the things that we keep getting asked about here is, and this is pretty important, so we might as well address it. Oh God, what?
Sorry. The chapter on FAP Swarm just freaking.
FAP Swarm.
I'm sorry, that just.
Yeah, no, that is actually a thing that exists in Goonswarm. So the funny thing about exposing the real history of what happened to the Fountain War is that, in terms of historical revisionism, when we win a war, we do whitewash everything. When I say we, I mean the Imperium. It's what we're good at. So one of the things I think is exciting about this project is we're actually going to be exposing our archives to show basically just how close we were to be completely and utterly screwed. So I mean, of course, right now, in the light of victory, we've always said that of course we were going to win. It was always a foregone conclusion, but it wasn't, and I think people will finally get a chance to find that out through what you're writing. So
yeah, I tried to go into that on my stream on Thursday. That people really don't understand how I think I talked like 30 minutes on the subject, was just how much of our back was being broken because we were having to run to the north to defend against Black Legion and Vale against the CSAs on a nightly basis, and I think we whelped one of our biggest fleets in Vale of the Scion, which was a full Tempest fleet issue. So it was really close, and people don't really recognize that.
The loss of the Tempest fleet issue fleet, the TFI fleet, the Tempest fleet issue fleet, that's a tongue twister. We called them tech fleets. That was our slang for them. And actually, Jeff has written a sample all about that, which I think is going to be pretty interesting for people to read. Jeff, could you maybe talk a little bit about the upcoming the snack regarding that incident?
Right. Yeah. The second snack. We're calling them snacks because they're too short to be meals. They're basically just designed to give you a taste of what it is that we're doing. But the second snack is called Piercing the Veil, and it's it's written from the perspective of Elo Knight and as FC of Black Legion, and about just jumping in, alarm clock in the towers, the Gents Towers in Vale of the Silent, and then jumping in to take out the CSAAs. I think it's a lot of fun. One of the important things to remember about these snacks is that the first couple of them were written in almost complete isolation. We weren't ready to go out. We weren't ready to go public. We weren't ready to start talking to people. We were still negotiating with CCP. The announcement hadn't been made. Nobody wanted any of this to get leaked. So I was working almost in the blind. I didn't have input coming in from Test. I didn't have input coming in from PL. I didn't have input coming in from Eclipse. I didn't have input coming in from the Gents. I didn't have input coming in from anybody except the handful of people who knew about the project. Consequently, the pieces that you're seeing right now are not necessarily completely the kind of balanced storytelling that I intend to do. This was the best I could do with the limited resources that I have without being able to contact people and ask questions. So I'm looking forward to rewriting both the scenes I've already touched on now that I've got better information and now that I'm getting better information.
Awesome. Well, hopefully we'll have that out in a day or two. I think it's time to show, one of the things that we did want to show with this is that Jeff is writing the enemies of the Imperium, at the time was the CFC, with just as much respect and actually, more agency in a lot of ways. We didn't want to just have a whole bunch of samples of, Imperium people being great, right? Because especially for most of the first half of the book, it's mostly us running around on fire with like chickens with their heads cut off. So I actually had a question here in chat, which was really good from McLeod towards Jeff. Hey, Jeff, have you ever thought about using the mysterious Jovian race to explain server glitches and other server-related stuff that went on in the war?
I had not. Hang it just a minute. I'm grabbing my paper here. That's fucking brilliant. I'm writing that down. I had not thought of that, but I'm literally writing it down right now.
Yeah, you could have some sort of like Jovian, mass destruction, like EMP field, something like Z9PP instead of remapping it. Like Jovian set off some sort of thing, intervene with the fleet, and just scatter everything.
Right.
Well, there's at least two fights. Go ahead.
I was going to say, here's an interesting thing. Maybe if we mess with that just a little bit, because CCP is so careful about kind of what little they let us know about the Jovians. Maybe if we mess with that a little bit and kind of indicate that they're intervening here, we might actually force them to ultimately reveal more than they intend to moving forward. So that could actually be fun.
Yeah, I mean, if we or by we I mean you, talk to CCP about including Jovian content as just sort of an overarching narrative that comes through and intervenes and explains that, then that also potentially, and that's a really good idea, McLeod, because potentially what that could do is almost every major server-related thing that screws up something in a war that is then written about is then an opportunity for CCP and you to divulge more to the EVE Online player base about how the Jovians act, what they're up to, and that sort of thing.
Oh, it could be an Easter egg for the book.
Oh, yeah, it totally could. I like that. Also, I had I was lucky enough at EVE Vegas to spend a little bit of time talking with CCP Falcon, who's written quite a bit of the lore and quite a bit of the background stories. I want to touch base with him about that because he's an incredibly smart guy, and he's probably got some cool ideas there too. And who knows, there might even be stuff they want me to sneak into the book that kind of becomes a precursor of other things to come.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be done here. I mean, what's interesting about this is we've been talking about the Found War book, but like it really is just the first, right? Like if this goes well and if people support the project, and I'm just going to go ahead and shamelessly plug the Kickstarter because that also is an opportunity for us to segue into the next important thing to talk about this. Which is the finances of it. If people do support it at a broad level, I mean, I would prefer to see lots of people just, buying an ebook for $10 than having massive big donations, because this is a completely new type of genre. And I think that would make the conflicts in EVE a lot more dynamic if when we go to war with each other, instead of just thinking we're fighting over this and that, we're fighting over this and that. And we're also knowing that what we do will be turned into fiction. That we will be reading later. So I think that will make the intensity of the combat in EVE much more significant. So that's a shameless plug for the Kickstarter. There you go. There's a link in chat. If you do support the project, if you have questions about the project and don't want to support it yet, you'll have an opportunity to ask Jeff any questions you'd like. Let's talk about the goal being as high as it is. Let's talk about that 150 grand there, Jeff. Can you talk about why it needs so much funding in general compared to other book projects?
Excuse me. Well, a lot of it is timing. I've got, as some of you know, maybe a lot of you know, I still consult for the Department of Defense through 2 different companies. I do cybersecurity on the one side, and I do write tactical doctrine and tactical manuals on the other side. The good news is that I'm at a very, very good place in my professional career, and I'm very happy about it. But I'm also kind of at the peak of my earning power right now. This is the moment in my life where I am earning the money that will allow my family to continue after one day I'm no longer able to work. So all of that stuff is important. So when we sat down to talk about this project, I basically said, look, I can't give up my day job at this stage of the game without significantly damaging my future financial plans and the future stability of my family. However, if we can make arrangements for me to take a significant amount of time, a significant amount of every week, and dedicate it to basically fall back to a part-time position and devote the majority of my time to writing this project, we could do it a lot faster. It's the kind of thing where if I was doing it in my spare time, you'd see the book in 3 years. If I put significant time into it, you'll see the book in a year. So, and we'll be able to do things that wouldn't be possible doing it the other way, which is releasing it in periodic chapters and doing all these other things. The bottom line is there aren't a whole lot of people in the world. I'm not one of these guys who's driving a Ferrari. I mean, I'm a fairly successful author, and I am not driving a Ferrari. I have a nice apartment, but it's an apartment. I'm not living in a mansion. For people who think I'm at the Stephen King end of things, I'm not. If I was, I wouldn't hesitate to take a year off to write this book. As it is, I am a successful author who happens to have a day job. In fact, I technically have 2 of them. So for me, taking off a year and not actually being able to replace at least some of that is just out of the question. Even then, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, keep going.
I was just going to say, the thing I think that people also don't realize is that falling back to a part-time position means that I lose stock options, that I lose 3/5 of my vacation time. I lose a lot of other benefits. I'm actually probably, if you came into this Kickstarter at the highest level and dropped the highest amount that anyone ever asked for on any of these, even some of the more ridiculous ones, I would still have more skin in this game than you do as a backer. So the idea that I'm going to somehow be feathering the nest with this, I will come out of this with a net loss in 5 figures, assuming that the book itself doesn't pay off. So.
Okay, that's awesome. We had a Twitch hiccup. I was looking there and like,
yeah,
oh my God.
I fixed it.
Okay, was that? Are we? I don't know where we got cut off there, but okay, so it's fixed. We're good to go.
No, they heard everything. It's just the video bugged out a little bit.
Okay, that's good. That's the important thing. So, I mean, one of the things that's tough about it is, I mean, people are looking into this. Also, it's not just about this particular book. It's like if this is successful and if Jeff is able to take time, if we do hit the funding goal, we'll be able to make sure that the more that we have, the more time Jeff can take off. One of the things I want to hit on here that's interesting and unique about this project is serialization, right? this is, of course, what Dickens perfected with the cliffhanger and serializing, and basically, every month you get a chapter of his novel. It would end on a cliffhanger. You'd go, wow, I can't wait to get the next one. When book projects come out, people say, hey, we're going to do a book, and you get excited about it, and then you have to wait a year and a half or 2 years before you actually get to read the damn thing. One of the reasons why Jeff being able to take off work is so important and why it's necessary for this is we don't want people to wait, because we want this book to be fiction that is so engaging, written by an already best-selling novelist, that you can give it to people who do not play Eve or have stopped playing Eve and entice them to come back to the game. It essentially becomes a marketing document. So part of that is also, we all want more people in Eve. We all want more methods and funnels to get people to play the game that we love. And so the goal is that Jeff is able to take time off work and hopefully get us the first serialization, like the first chapter or 3 or whatever it is, as early as February of this year, which is one of the main reasons why we're pushing this so hard and why the ask is what it is. So that's a major component of it. And also a major component of the meta show, I'm just realizing, is that we're 5 minutes towards the end. So we need to make sure that if we have any last questions from our guys, time flies when you're having fun.
Can I toss out one more thing about the serial?
Go for it. Yeah.
The other thing that's going to be interesting and fun about the serial is that when we write these, I think each serial is ideally going to be about 3 to 5 chapters long, just depending on how long the chapters themselves are, how long they take to produce. But my goal is to make each one of them 3 to 5 chapters long. So you'll get a significant chunk of the book every time you see a serial. But one of the things that's really interesting about this is if I make a mistake in there, if I put something in there that doesn't work, if I put something in there and after reading it, the Eve community comes back and says, hey, that isn't really how that happened. Hey, your data is wrong. Look at this piece over here. We can actually revise it, and it can actually be correct in the final book, which means that you'll kind of have, even though it'll be as polished as we could possibly make it, you'll kind of have an earlier version of the story and then a final version of the story that may not be exactly identical. And that's actually, to me, very cool, because it means this project continues to get better as it develops.
That's excellent. Yeah, and the thing about this is, like, we really want to, and the backer rewards really put too much of a focus on me. That was a marketing fuck up, and it is what it is. The product is the book, and the author is Jeff, and it's also everyone's book, right? Everyone who participated, even everybody who is impacted. And if you're in high sec, I would like, one of the things my wife is constantly talking about is it would be really cool to have a scene where when we lose all of our Tibbetts fleet issues and the market is just wiped out and the Goonstorm finance team goes desperately trying to buy up any sort of thing to claw together a fleet that'll work, having a perspective of someone who wasn't involved in the war at all as a high sec market trader, because nobody tells the story of the guy in Jita who's sitting there and manipulating the markets and just has all this funding in there, and suddenly he finds the markets, like, the scene zooms in on this guy who's at his trading desk, or he's got all these feeds going on into his brain, and suddenly realize that this entire segment of the market is wiped out. And it's everybody's stories. It's the people in low sec and high sec, and I think that the community feedback is so important. Getting Jeff in front of everybody, everyone getting to interact with him on this virtual book tour, just to tell those stories that normally get ignored.
Sorry, I was actually paying attention to you. I spotted the thing in text about when I described the huge fleet fights, the lag. Should I leave some of the pages in the book blank? That's funny. I'm sorry.
No, that's great. I've heard a lot of jokes about tie-dye, where to do real serious time dilation to show the effect of that, you only have 2 or 3 words per page as it slows down. Like in the fight, just drip, drip, drip.
I like it. Yeah. That's if you guys get if you guys get a serial that only has 15 words in it, you'll know that was during a big fight.
Yeah, so if you guys have an opportunity, if you'd like to share your stories with Jeff, which I highly encourage, even if you are just we got a great story from Aldap the other day, which we put a snippet from in our backer update, talking about what he was like as a solo PvPer, just hunting both blocks in the middle of it.
Wasn't that cool?
It was amazing. It was really well done. And so we really want a lot of unique perspectives. And so you can get to Jeff. If you don't want to touch anything with a Mittani name on it, you can reach Jeff directly at info@navythriller.com. If you don't worry about sending something to a Mittani.com email address, you can always email your stories as well to fountainwar@themittani.com. Either will work.
I get them both ways.
Yep. Either
both
way,
come
it's
to me.
all going to go to Jeff, but it's just sort of a trust and partiality thing. And so please do that. We have a Shirar.
Yes,
Do you want to read this out?
Yeah, when GSF had market issues, they hired Enron accountants of space to credit, which allowed them to buy those ships to push to win. Thanks, Shirar, making it rain as always.
So thanks a lot, dude. We need to do some giveaways
Yes.
because we're almost out of time.
So I'm going to immediately roll them, guys. First one's gonna be Trash Corps. Trash Corps. Make sure you message the channel with what that you want a rookie ship. I'll send it out to you. And include your in-game name with it in case I need to send it that way. And then next one is going to be MH Jones 5. Our 2 winners for today. Congratulations. And like I said, guys, we are running out of time. We got about a minute left. I want to give a quick shout out to Blue Microphones, making it rain for all of our streamers here, our partner here on the TMC. And it's probably the best condenser mic you can get for the price. Like, if you need a good condenser mic, like I have some really nice audio headphones, and that's why I have a separate mic, and I would not go any other way than Blue Microphone. So,
all right, shameless plug. But
I know.
that's actually legit. These are from the recording industry, so they're not like just like gaming microphones or something. But anyway, thanks so much to Jeff Edwards for coming in, and I want to praise Jeff yet again, not just for his writing quality, because Dome City Blues was his first book, and it's awesome, and it was written in '92, and everything he's written since then is even better. But also for having the courage, I mean, as a Eve noob and playing around to face down his harshest critics in mano to mano, Reddit combat, and then just meeting people on a virtual book tour. I mean, I think the more that people get a chance to meet you and interact with you directly, unfiltered with no handlers, your enthusiasm about the project just shines through. So thanks so much for coming on, and I'm really happy. I'm looking forward to reading the first serial, dude.
Me too.
Awesome. All right, guys, let's play him off, keyboard cat.
Coming up, guys. Coming up next is the Undead Zone. So we'll see you guys next week.